Welcome to the KNEO Community Connection, where we keep our finger on the pulse of what's coming up in the four-state area, telling you about upcoming events you don't want to miss, organizations in our area doing great work, and conversations with the dynamic citizens who are making it all happen. I'm your host, Luke Taylor, and this is a production of KNEO Radio in Neosho, Missouri, and the Sky High Podcast Network. We have a very encouraging interview for you today from Scott Douglas. He's the community manager at Henley Place in Neosho, and he's going to be talking about caretakers and some of the struggles that they deal with. We also have an interview for you today with Karen Sprenkle. She directs the Restoration Life Center in Neosho, and they are dealing with some repairs that have caused an interruption to their thrift store business. We're going to let her tell you all about that. But first, we have a conversation with the park ranger at the George Washington Carver National Monument. His name is Curtis Gregory, and we're going to be talking about Carver Day 2023. That's coming up on July 8th. Normally, we try to do this program with a focus on this weekend's upcoming events, but we're going to tell you about this one just a little bit early this time, because next week, we're going to be bringing you an episode right from the Newton County Fairgrounds as the annual Newton County Fair is going on. And so that's going to be more of maybe a live episode. And so that'll be a little bit different format. We're going to be doing that next week. And we're going to be bringing you lots of features, if you follow us on Facebook, lots of features of things going on at this year's fair. And so we're going to go ahead and tell you about Carver Day 2023 right now, so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle of everything going on next week. But hey, Curtis Gregory, thank you so much for joining us today on the KNEO Community Connection.
Hey, well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, I was really excited to talk to you today because you all have a really big day coming up. The 80th Carver Day celebration is going to be July 8th. And what do you want everybody to know about that?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, the 80th Carver Day celebration is Saturday, July the 8th, from 10 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's a day that we celebrate the establishment of the park, which was July 1943. The park has been here for 80 years, so we're celebrating that, as well as the legacy and the accomplishments of George Washington Carver. So this has been an annual celebration ever since the park was founded. So that's pretty cool. And what kind of stuff is going to be going on that day out there? Yeah, so we have a wonderful day planned. We have guest speakers. We'll have music groups. We'll have a lot of activities for kids. We'll have what we call resource education exhibitors. Will be set up on the front lawn, and they'll be, having activities and for kids and other activities for adults. And we'll have a food concession, which will be provided by the Diamond Lions Club. And it's just going to be a wonderful, wonderful day full of activities and all in celebrating the park and George Washington Carver.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people in this area have been out there probably multiple times over the years. And so it looks like but for this event on that day, it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. This is probably a great time for people. If they haven't been back out there for a while, this would be a great time to come visit again, wouldn't it?
Oh, definitely. It'll be a wonderful time to come out and reflect. If you haven't been out at the park in a while, we have a lot of our local visitors, from various ages have been out here throughout the year, especially on field trips, because most kids in this area will come out for field trips, and then years later, they'll bring their families, and then they bring their families out. So it's a wonderful time, if you haven't been out to the park in a while, to come out and see some of the changes, but also just to come out and just to learn a little bit more about George Washington Carver. And we have two outstanding speakers. We have one speaker. If you wouldn't mind, I'll share a little bit about our speakers. We have two speakers, two guest speakers. We have one speaker from the State Historical Society in Iowa, and he's going to talk about George Washington Carver's years in Iowa. A lot of our visitors that come to the park, many do not know about the Iowa connection, the Iowa years. Well, Carver spent he spent a fair amount of time in Iowa where he graduated. Well, he went to Iowa and he went to one school, Simpson College, and then he transferred to what is now Iowa State University, and he graduated with 2 degrees from what is now Iowa State University in agriculture. The first black to receive both degrees, one in 1894 and master's degree in 1896. And so those years in Iowa were very special to him and very critical as well. And so we have this curator from the State Historical Society who's going to talk about, reflect on some of that. And then we have another speaker from the Thomas Hart Benton State Historical Site in Kansas City. And he's going to talk a little bit about Thomas Hart Benton and some of the work that Thomas Hart Benton did in painting Black life. And he's going to talk about that he was one of the early white artist that would paint African American life and culture and inequality as well. So we're very fortunate to have both of these wonderful speakers that are going to reflect, on different aspects on George Washington Carver's life and the Black experience as well.
Well, I bet people would love to come hear more about that and see some great things. One more thing that's going on is you're going to have some music going on that day. It looks like some jazz, blues, and folk music that's going to be going on, and so people can just come out and if they're a music fan as well, they're going to find lots of stuff to love that day.
Sure, yeah, we always a part of Carver Day. Music has always been a huge part of Carver Day. So we got some great musicians. We have a local musician, Lem Shepard, which he's from Pittsburgh, Kansas, and many of your listeners may know Lem. He's a local jazz, blues, and folk musician, and that he does a wonderful job of tracing the history of African American music throughout, George Washington Carver's time, and he will share stories as well. We have a wonderful group from St. Louis. They're known as Cherry and Jerry, and they will talk about the history of ragtime music throughout, George Washington Carver's period as well, his lifetime as well, and they do a wonderful job. And we're very fortunate this year to bring back the Bright Star Touring Theater, and they're a national children's theater group from North Carolina, and they're going to present a play, which is kind of a musical on freedom songs throughout the history of the United States. So they do a wonderful job, and they do a wonderful job of interacting with visitors, with their audience and children. So yeah, we got a great day planned, and something else to share with your listeners is that it's free of charge. There's no charge to come to the park anytime or for this event as well.
I visited the park as a kid, so I grew up in this area, and so I've visited it several times as an adult. Y'all have done such a great job maintaining that place out there and adding to it over the years, and it just looks better than ever if people want to go out and visit. So there's going to be storytelling, there's going to be music, speakers, educational programs, all kinds of stuff going on July the 8th, and that's going to be at George Washington Carver National Monument. Starts at 10, ends at 3. It's their 80th annual Carver Day celebration. And we've been speaking today with Curtis Gregory. He's a park ranger out there. And hey, sir, thank you for your time today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having us on your show, and thank you for your continuous park support as well.
Hey, absolutely. Let's keep talking as more stuff comes up in the future.
Sounds great.
Okay, don't go away. We're going to be back with another interview in just a few moments. We're going to have up ahead a conversation with Karen Sprenkle about what's been going on at the Restoration Life Center. And then after that, we have a special guest in studio to tell us all about the Henley Place. We have on the phone with us today Karen Sprenkle, and she is the Executive Director of the Restoration Life Center located here in Neosho, and they've had some stuff going on over there that we want to make sure everybody knows about. And so, hey, Karen, thanks for joining us here on the program.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So you guys had an incident there towards the end of May where a vehicle actually crashed into the thrift store at y'all's location, and this has caused a little bit of a hang-up in some of the services y'all can provide. Do you want to let us know about what's going on?
We certainly did. We had an unfortunate accident that happened on May 22nd, and we have been shut down at our location there at Main Street, which is our thrift store, and that is the majority of our funding that funds the shelter here at 415 North High. The city has posted on the door that we have to be shut down until repairs are done. We do not know when we will be able to start the repairs until we hear back from our insurance company. and they're waiting on the structural engineer's report. So as soon as we get that information, we'll be able to start picking a contractor to come in and do the work that's needed.
Okay. And so, I'd seen a write-up in the local paper that you all are looking at probably in the $50,000 range as far as repairs of what's going to be needed for that place.
Well, that was just a soft estimate. We actually will have much more than that once they assess the structural portion of it. That was basically just like the cosmetic aspects of the building.
Okay. So, this was a major, I know it's a big detriment to what you all are trying to do because, like you said, is the thrift store is the main source of income for the Restoration Life Center ministry organization work that you do. And tell us about some of those things that Restoration Life is involved with.
Well, we are known as a emergency shelter, but we've actually shifted our way of operating. Not only do we house people for 30 days here at the center, we also have work readiness programs. We help them fill out resumes. We have developed 3 R's of Restoration Life Center, and that has relief, restore, and reestablish. And those can take up to a 2-year-long process that somebody can stay with us, just teaching them life skills and meeting them where they're at. So there's a lot that goes into what we do here at the High Street location. Then we also help with clothing, Red Cross, burnouts, hygiene, all different kinds of things at the Main Street location, which is the thrift store.
And so we know it's important that you all can keep doing that work. And so in the meantime, as you're getting the thrift store, trying to get the ship back on course over there, you're looking for a temporary location where you can operate and sell some of those items. And so can you tell people what you're looking for as far as an alternative location for right now?
Yes, we need a building that we could mainly put our clothing and our furniture in to just open temporarily, that we could sell our items to help fund the shelter.
Okay. And so are you hoping to find something that's like nearby the current location, or is it what are you thinking as far as that goes?
Honestly, if it's in the city limits of Neosho, we can transport our residents that work over there, and as long as it's accessible, we're pretty easy on that. We're just looking for something that would work.
Okay. Well, in case anyone's listening and they have an idea about something that they could do to help, or if they just have any questions, could you give them an email or a phone number they can call?
Absolutely. If they would go to rlcneosho.org, there is a spot there that they can give, or they can send me an email through the link. So there's 3 different buttons that they can click on, and it will take them to whatever they're needing. And I also have a personal email. They can send any kind of inquiries, which is ksprenkle.rlc@gmail.com. And we also have a phone number at 417-455-9393. And that is here at the shelter, and we would be able to answer any questions at that time.
Okay, well, hey, we'll let people go check that out and see what they could do to help if they have any ideas for location. That is a need right now for the Restoration Life Center thrift store. And we've been speaking today with Karen Sprenkle. She's the executive director out there. Hey, Karen, thank you so much for your time to tell us about all that.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Don't turn this off just yet. We have one more interview to bring you today. We're going to sit down with Scott Douglas of the Henley Place. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
For 60 years, Crowder College has been empowering students to soar to new heights. From agriculture to education, to business, sports, and the newest technologies, Crowder always has something interesting going on. I'm Adam Winkler of KNEO Radio. Join me each week as I talk to a different person from Crowder College about what's been happening and what's coming up next. It's the Insider's Guide to all things Crowder. Subscribe today to the This Week in Crowder College podcast, available from the Sky High Podcast Network.
We have a special guest who's actually joined us in studio today. His name is Scott Douglas, and he is the community manager at the Henley Place, and that's located right here in Neosho. And Scott, hey, thanks for coming out and visiting us here at the radio station.
It's great to be here, Luke.
So maybe to start off, we'll tell everybody the Henley Place. I want to let you introduce what that place does for everybody real quick.
Well, it's an assisted living. Most people I've noticed in Neosho remember it as Spring Hill, and it's owned and operated by AmeriCare, and still, even being changed to Henley Place, it's still operated by AmeriCare. And they changed the name a couple years ago. I arrived in Neosho around Thanksgiving of last year, and one of my marketing plans was to get out there and educate Neosho that we are still open and still operating as assisted living, and a wonderful opportunity for seniors to be able to get assistance.
Well, so a lot of people around here might know it as Spring Hill, but now it's the Henley Place. And so obviously something that you care a lot about deeply is taking care of the elderly and the people who need a little bit of extra care. And so you're going to talk to us today about caretaker burnout. Can you tell us what you think people need to know about that?
Well, if I give a little bit of my backstory, I did work with children over in Central Illinois for 20 years in a children's home, a Methodist-owned organization. And I noticed after 20 years, I was starting to feel a little old working with children. So then I started working with seniors, and it made me feel young again. So but I had a great opportunity to start working in assisted living for a couple of years in Central Illinois, moved down to the St. Louis area, ran a building for about 10 years there, and also did some memory care units along with the assisted living. I worked with AmeriCare close to St. Louis. The building in Neosho had an opening and for me to transfer with a company, and I was able to come over to Neosho, and I have really loved the opportunity to come to this area. I did like working around the St. Louis area, but I did notice marketing around there and going around to meet people. It was difficult to get in the door to talk to people, but in Neosho, wherever I go, people invite me in, and I get to sit down, and I go to all sorts of different businesses, and everybody's been so friendly. So I've loved the environment and the atmosphere of this town, and so it's been a great experience. And talking about caretaker burnout today, a little bit of my story is that my first wife, who was 6 years older than me, she got an early onset dementia and was diagnosed in her mid-50s, which is not as common as you would see with people getting diagnosed in their 70s or 80s. So I had a challenge there. The first few years, it was moderate form of dementia, and probably most people wouldn't notice it, is forgetting some details, maybe some names like that. But the last couple of years, she was starting to forget who I was, and to be able to come home, and I didn't have anybody, the children were all growing up and they were out of the house, so it was just her and I, and to come home and to start losing your partner like that, where she would say, you just moved here a couple of weeks ago. Where have you been? Have you ever met our children? And to spend a few hours every single night talking with her, going through pictures, talking about how we got married, and reminding her until around bedtime, she would say, yeah, I think I remember you. And it's one of those things, people don't know what you're going through, and they may get some of the details, and they might feel like, oh, I'm sorry that you're going through that, but to live it is very difficult, and the pressure there. In her situation, she got to the point where she was going to start looking for her family or for her house and start leaving the home, and it was just too dangerous, and she is currently living in an assisted living building in Illinois, and she's very safe. She's living with professionals who deal with dementia, and also she's doing great, actually. No more panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and so it's very safe for her. But there's a lot of pressure on the caretaker, which I experience because not only, like I told you earlier, I work on both sides of the desk. I'm on the side helping families and educating them about assisted living. What can we do for you? How can we help you out? How can we help out the senior? But I've also been the customer. I've been on the other side of the desk where, can you help me? And this is what I've gone through. And I know what it's like to have the pressure that caretakers have. They either run by guilt. I can't abandon my mom or my dad or my grandmother or my spouse. I've got to be there for them. I've made this commitment. I've got to hold that burden. I've got to bear the load, and there's this pressure, there's this commitment, and I'm failing them. And what a lot of people don't understand is that the statistics out there is that often the caretaker ends up passing away before the person who is needing assisted living. Even people who are taking care of their parents, they say around 30%, if you look up the numbers, around 30% of caretakers pass away before the person that it needs the help. And when it comes to seniors who are the caretakers, let's say it's a spouse, a husband's taking care of the wife, but they're in their 70s, but she needs help. And the pressure on the elderly, the caretaker, the caretaker passing away is 70% before the person who is needing the help. And that's just because they're saying the stress, the pressure, the depression, and you just don't see it from a day-to-day basis, but it increases all the time, and it affects the people's health. And I in my situation, I could see how that could happen. This was my wife, and what I had to go through, and how do you reach out for help? And my support group was my friends, but they couldn't leave their jobs and come over and help me out, and they couldn't support me financially to be able to do that. It was all on me, and what you got to go through. I have a lot of compassion now for families who come in and talk to me about, I don't know if I should really, talk to my mom about going into assisted living. So I talk to so many families that haven't even talked to, they haven't talked to their mom or dad yet, but they're going through this pressure. And the first thing we deal with is guilt. Should I even be here? Should I even be having this discussion? And to let them know this is okay, because we reach out for help in all other situations in life. If you break your leg, you go to the doctor. Yeah. If you need an operation, you go to the doctor. If you can't walk, you get a wheelchair. I mean, you always do things to get some kind of assistance. But when it comes to assisted living, there's this a lack of understanding out in the public as what is assisted living. And until they go out and investigate and get some information, sometimes they're feeling depressed, or they're alone, or nobody understands what I'm going through, or maybe I'm a bad person and I'm not trying hard enough. And so now that I've gone through it, and then being on the other side of the desk, and when somebody's coming in, I often tell them my story so that they understand that I know what they're feeling and what they're going through, and that it is okay to look for help.
Yeah, I think about the physical strain of having to be somebody's caretaker, and just how that would run somebody ragged. But also, if it's a family member, a husband or wife, I mean, the emotional strain that would be there too, which is something that nothing in life could really prepare you for something like that.
That's true, and probably my final point on this is because I have so many people that are confused, like, what do I do? What do I do? And I was in that situation. What do you do? Because if I try to get help for my wife, how's that affect the kids? How does that, people from the church, what would they think of me? What do I think of myself? Am I abandoning them? Am I giving up? And you really have to clear the table of all of that. And that's what I tell families, and that's what I did for myself too. You wipe all that off the board, you wipe the slate clean, and this is what you do. What is the safest thing to do? That's the question that you answer. Stop all the guilt kind of conversation, all the depression, or what are people going to think, or what do I think about myself? You wipe the slate clean and you answer this question. What is the safest thing I can do for them? You start there. That's what you do for your spouse. That's what you do for your mom and dad. That's what you do for grandma or grandpa. What is the safest thing to do? Sometimes it's staying at home. And many times it's going into assisted living, or there's different types of helps out there for seniors. And, it is a friendly competition, but because there's other people that do services for seniors in different ways. But anybody who's in this field is passionate about one thing, keeping seniors safe. And that's the safest thing going to assisted living? If that's what it is, then you pursue it.
Well, I think one thing we want to let people know about is if there's somebody out there, if they're a caretaker, if they could be experiencing some burnout or, could be heading in that direction. But either way, Henley Place is a location that can help people with that, isn't it?
That's correct, and we do many different services for seniors that are coming in, and we're an all-inclusive pricing. Some assisted livings do tier type of pricing where they might charge you more as you need more assistance. We're not that type. We do an all-inclusive pricing, and we are very competitive in our pricing. And we're a smaller community. In the past, I ran buildings that were about 3 stories tall and 103 apartments. And it was a very busy and active place. And in fact, Luke, you've came out and visited us.
That's
and
right.
You noticed that we're a smaller community, 25 apartments. It's very much more home-like. It's much more quiet. A lot of
Peaceful.
Seniors like that. There's a lot of seniors like that. And it's been a joy running, that building. And, I would be glad to be able to talk to anybody who's a senior thinking about looking into assisted living, to be able to answer some of the questions, or any kind of family member that's needing more information.
Yeah, well, if somebody's interested and maybe they want to come chat with you guys about short-term care or anything like that, I mean, is the best thing to do to just stop by and visit, or do they need to call and make an appointment? How would that work?
Well, I do have drop-bys, and my staff are trained to be able to do tours and show people around, and so there's a lot of friendly staff there to be able to show someone around. If there's a drop-by, I just realize that we're also serving our seniors at the time, so if you want a little more time than just dropping by and picking up a flyer, then be glad to have you call in, and we can set up an appointment and talk a little bit, answer your questions. Every family has a different situation. Be able to show you around. And some people are kind of kicking the tires, looking to try to move in maybe in a couple of years. Some people are looking for a couple months. So we can work at any pace for a family. So the phone number for Henley Place, 417-451-1000. And of course, after somebody visits, I'll be able to give them my work cell, and I have a lot of families that text me as the months go on with other questions that they have, and so I try to make myself very open and available for people who need information.
All right. Well, again, the Henley Place, it's 451-1000 if you want to find out more about them. And we've been speaking today with Scott Douglas. You can give him a call anytime if you want to learn more about Henley Place. He's the community manager over there. And hey, Scott, let's have you back on the program sometime to talk a little bit more about the care of elderly people.
That would be wonderful.